So I can quite clearly remember in March last year when the Nepal earthquakes happened, coming into work the next day, and my office is actually shared by the Nepalese consulate. And there were so many phone calls coming in from people who, quite obviously had a connection to Nepal and were really concerned, and they were wanting to do something. They were seeing everything and the devastation on the news, and they just wanted to do something and help. And so they were offering to send blankets and clothes and offering to even jump on a plane and go and help uncover people from the rubble. And it came to this really difficult conversation insofar as we had to tell people no. We basically had to say, if you want to really help these people, send money. Send money. And people just could not grasp that concept. They were like, no, I'm offering you my services. In some cases, I'm offering to go to an earthquake-stricken zone and help, put myself in danger and help. And we had to say, well, that's actually, you'd probably get in the way, And
is that why it's not helpful?
Well, there's heaps of reasons why people who aren't qualified and haven't been through the training that aid workers go through, going over there would be an issue. And then there's the whole other issue of transport and logistics. And the fact was the Kathmandu airport wasn't even open. There's fuel shortages. There's people have lost their entire families, everything they own. You coming in with your good spirit is actually not that helpful. Send the money to the aid agencies who can deliver on the ground infrastructure and actual help.
And sometimes they can be different to what people might experience if there is that kind of situation domestically.
Yes.
So, for example, there's a flood and then, people might be able to come and help out and give their time or, give the blankets and the goods or the food or whatever. And that might be a different situation. But when you are in these type of countries where infrastructure is already an issue at the start and then add a disaster, that can really make things difficult.
And I understand why people want to do it. They want to feel like they're helping it. And I understand. I've been to Nepal. So when I saw the footage, my heart was aching for the people. You know, that really physical ache where it's obviously not your heart, but you can, your stomach drops and you feel like you need to go and do something just to make yourself feel better. And I'm not saying that everyone who was doing this was just doing it to make themselves feel better. Obviously, there is pure altruism and forces at work. But at the end of the day, if they're not listening to the reason from the experts who say, don't come, you're going to be in the way, it's actually not helpful, then you've got to question their motives.
It's interesting because our guest today, Lauren, she talks a little bit about the importance of having your heart in the right place. I mean, she doesn't actually talk about that directly, but it's interesting to see how her own journey allowed her to pursue the right thing with the right agenda.
Yes. And I loved how she talked about the need for sustainable development and the need to invest in sustainable development programs that ensure you can make a real impact on social change. And it's not actually a token gesture of social change.
Yes.
She talked about how, she can make lovely stationery, but she's not going to use her social impact in sending notebooks over to girls in a developing country, because that would actually take a job away from a local worker. Whereas what she can actually do is make and sell beautiful notebooks here in Australia and funnel those funds back into education programs. And that would have a more long-term impact than if she were to just send a notebook.
Definitely. And I suppose, one thing that I found very refreshing is coming back to your comment a bit earlier is also she put aside her own ego to really actually look at how can she collaborate. And collaboration is a recurring theme so far in our podcast to actually make real change.
Yes.
And I think I like this. And it's also, coming back to the idea about, token gesture versus real change. So I think we can definitely learn from Lauren's passion today, but also the way she goes about things. And that also made me think of when we talked to Adriana in the episode number 2. And we talk about how social change comes when you have the point between your passion and your resources.
Yes. And I think what's really evident in the interview today is that Lauren didn't do anything without putting really considered thought into it. And she actually said something. She was like, she's one of those people where she gets lots and lots of ideas and she's always like, what a great idea, I'm going to do that. Oh, what a great idea. And so when Words with Heart came to her, she actually stopped and thought about it and then put lots of research into actually doing it. And that clearly shows in her success of her social enterprise business model and working with long-standing charities that are on the ground facilitating real change.
And are already established.
Yes.
Established.
And it does take a level of pushing aside your own ego to admit, well, actually, if I were to start my own charity, would I actually be very good at it? Would I actually make a real impact? Or can I put my energies into something that will actually gain more money and more awareness for the causes that I'm passionate about and actually create proper change?
Let's have a listen. Welcome to The Human Factor, the show where we explore social change through the eyes of social entrepreneur and nonprofit advocate. My name is Melanie Roussin, her name is Erin McCabe, and we are your hosts.
Today we talk to Lauren Shuttleworth, an alumnus of the School of Social Entrepreneurs, the Impact Academy, and she was recently named a finalist in the Brisbane Young Entrepreneur Award.
You'll hear about Lauren's social enterprise, Words with Heart, and how it all came about from a notebook sitting in an airport that left her a bit flat. Let's start the show. Hi, Lauren. Welcome to The Human Factor. Trailblazer, social entrepreneur, inspiring woman. These are just some of the titles we came across when researching your amazing social business, Words with Heart. But Lauren, how would you describe yourself?
Well, I usually describe myself as a social entrepreneur and gender equality activist, just because both those things are very close to my heart and I guess can be quite separate sometimes. So I guess my gender equality passion for gender equality has really grown a lot since starting the social enterprise, and it's kind of had a life of its own now. So yeah, that's probably how I describe myself.
Awesome. And I mean, the term has been around, especially in startup and not-for-profit land, for quite some time. But I guess for some people, the word social entrepreneur, especially when you consider it being a fully fledged career, they're actually a fairly new breed of person. So what I'd love to know is what does a typical day look like for you?
Good question. I think too, there's a lot of buzz around entrepreneurship and a lot of sort of glamour associated with it, but there really isn't. For me right now, the business has gotten to a stage where I guess it's seeing some real growth, and we've just secured our first investment, which is really exciting. And so we're going to scale quite fast from here. So it's very, very busy. I think a typical day will be, getting back to emails with some of our bigger clients and dealing with some of their orders, talking with our charity partners. I might do like a podcast interview like I am today, or, doing sort of press or speaking gigs or panels to help get the message of, gender equality and girls' education there. So it's very diverse. It's very doing all of the things, certainly not glamorous. But there are still moments where, when I get to sit on a panel and talk about the issues that I'm passionate about, and I get, emails from our clients and from women and girls who, looking for advice about how they can, I guess, push gender equality more in their everyday work, or how they can start a social enterprise. Those things are really nice little nuggets of joy, I guess, to get in the day. So
fantastic. One thing I'm really curious about and interested about is when you started Words with Heart, did you ever consider starting your own charity in order to, I suppose, funnel the funds that you raised? Because often people don't necessarily think about collaboration. They might think about, doing their own charity. So how did you go about this? And how did you come to choose the charities you work with to make an impact?
I actually did think about starting a charity at first because I'd never heard of social enterprise. So after I came back from volunteering overseas and, got really passionate about girls' education, I thought I'll start a charity. But then I just found it so confusing researching online, like how do I start one? It seems so administrative, it seems so really tightly controlled, and having an entrepreneur background, that just seemed so foreign to me. And when I stumbled across social enterprise, I thought this is perfect. I can combine, all the heart of a charity and the mind of a business and create this thing that just works so well. So when I did make that decision, I thought I'd much rather partner with charities who already have fantastic projects on the ground that are doing amazing work for girls and women, as opposed to, setting up my own projects, because I guess I know my strengths in the business side and in being able to talk about and, express that passion for that social issue, as opposed to really doing a very good job on the development side. And the development side is really important. So I wanted to make sure that we invested in really good education for women and girls, that it wasn't just a token, buy a notebook, we'll fund education. It had to be really quality. So making sure we partnered with reputable charities in that space was really important to me. And I guess going about that was really talking to quite a few charities, putting the word out around what we were doing. And I was actually I was really happy and surprised that they engaged so quickly with what our vision was. Back to that idea of, good development. And it's something that I think in the social enterprise space, we are still working out because it's such a new space. We look at some charities or some social enterprises that I guess they invest in some sort of social cause, but sometimes it's not always the best way to do it. Like, there's some interesting studies that have been done around, donating clothing or donating items to the developing world and how that can actually stagnate their economic growth. So for me, I thought, I don't want to just donate notebooks to the schools in the developing world, because I don't want to then take the job away from someone that works in a stationery store that sells notebooks, or, it's about being able to really, it's such a complicated area of development, and it's so much more depth to it than what even I realized. So that's where I thought, I don't really want to take that on without the proper knowledge of how all those small little ripple effects work and affect each other in terms of social change. So I definitely hats down and just find people that work in that space so amazing.
And so you were inspired by, I guess you could call it an uninspired notebook, to connect women's education to the stationery business. But what exactly happened next after this idea? Like, how did you go about turning the idea into something real that people could get behind?
At first I thought, because I'm such an ideas person, I don't know if I feel like that as well, but I often get all these different ideas and I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea. I love that idea. It's like that shiny new thing syndrome. So I thought, I probably shouldn't do this right now. I should just think about it for a while. And if I'm still really passionate about it and I can't stop thinking about it, in a few weeks and months, etc., then I should do it. And so I kind of just forced myself to sit on it for a little while. But I just still couldn't stop thinking about it. Even though I was, my willpower is terrible. I was like looking up domain names. I was researching, how do I create stationery? So then I just thought, I'm just going to do it. So it was really just ticking off those little things and mulling over, okay, so how do I create stationery? And then like looking up all the costs and working out, is this a viable market? Is it a good product? And then looking at different charities and how we could partner with them, and looking at other social enterprises and what they were doing. So it was all these little bits of research that I guess kind of came together as this giant puzzle, which then became Words with Heart. And even since then, even since we launched, we have changed so much. So it's kind of been a journey as we go. We're still learning and changing, and yeah, it's exciting.
Definitely. I suppose for full disclosure, I should say that I just started a business as well, and I'm trying to do a little bit the same as you do in terms of creating some form of social enterprise, and I'm yet to wrap my head around exactly what that means. And I suppose, what I found is working as an entrepreneur can be lonely, and also as a social entrepreneur. So often, the key is to surround yourself with people that keeps you motivated. But my question to you, Lauren, is how do you stay motivated, especially that you're not directly facing your cause every day?
Another great question. I think as social entrepreneurs, we probably have that a little bit easier than regular entrepreneurs, but it's also a double-edged sword. So I know that whenever I feel like I need being reminded of my why, I can, look and go to one of my charity partners and look at some of the work they're doing and that we're investing in. I can, look up videos around girls' education, and, it's a great one about the girl effect. And I can, watch all these things, listen to TED Talks, and get this sort of inspiration to push me through a challenging time. But it's also can be tricky because as social entrepreneurs, you're extra invested in your project and your business. So, and you feel so compelled by that passion for a social issue that sometimes if you're not careful, it can drive you to burnout. I think that's the danger of being a social entrepreneur. You're so passionate about your cause, and that can mean so much when it comes to pushing you through challenges, but you have to also make sure you take care of yourself. So, but staying motivated is a mix of, my social cause driving me, but also my own internal passion for business and creating a great business and I guess inspiring other women through that. So it's sort of like a self-motivated drive as well as the external drive of the social change.
Definitely. I think balancing all these goals is definitely an art and a science, isn't it?
For sure. For sure.
I'm also really interested in the fact that you are working a lot with interns. And what I want to know is, was this a strategy that you took originally to get things off the ground while, starting the business? Or is it something that you see long term? And if so, how do you ensure that this model is sustainable for the business?
Yeah, so interns was not a deliberate strategy. It just so happened that at the time of launching Words with Heart, there was another social enterprise that was in an accelerator program I was doing that was about connecting university student interns with social enterprises and charities. And so they basically wanted all of the other fellow social enterprises to get involved. So I was like, this is great. I'm all for this. It'd be great to have some extra hands to help with different things as the business grows. So then sort of advertised and did the whole thing through their program that they ran. And, all these great university students through the program, they were all women, so that was even better, were like connecting with Words with Heart, and we set up this program, which worked really well. It's definitely tricky to maintain. I learned that sometimes managing people is harder and takes more resources than doing it yourself. And I mean that more from, my fault in that you have to be very organized, and you have to, be giving people things that they need, and you can't sort of just operate on a whim, which is how I guess entrepreneurs often do. You just sort of be very reactive and you jump with things. So it's definitely a total different way of organizing the business and the structure. And so, yeah, it's been really good to be able to have that dual, being able to give these women experience and this creative outlet to do all this really cool stuff, and also have them help us create all this social change.
What I was really interested in when I was researching the organisation is the fact that you successfully launched Words with Heart through a crowdfunding campaign. Especially, I'm a fundraiser and I hear a lot about the joys and potential around crowdfunding campaigns. And I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about how you decided to launch through crowdfunding and what steps you took to ensure it was a successful campaign.
I'm such a big advocate for crowdfunding. I think it's a great way to launch a business or a social enterprise, just because there's something about having a monetary goal and then a set amount of time in order to achieve that goal that creates this lovely buzz, and it kind of builds this ready-made community and, support network for your business. So I love the idea of crowdfunding. I came across it because when I was researching other social enterprises that had similar models to Words with Heart, they had all launched through crowdfunding. And I could see that it was going to work so perfectly for our model, because with stationery, in order to be able to be competitive on price, we had to order in bulk. So we had to order a lot of stationery. And that felt really risky, sort of going, well, do we, spend $20,000 on stationery with designs that we don't even know if people will like it, or how will they hear about us? And so crowdfunding is great because you can pre-sell. We can pre-sell that stationery before we ordered it, and sort of have that security of knowing, great, we've sort of kickstarted our business. We've got people that are really engaged in what we're doing. They'll probably be repeat customers. And so I think it's such a really, really exciting way to launch. And we had a lot of media that jumped on board because of that buzz, because of, they've only got 30 days to achieve this goal, or else the company doesn't start. And so we got some great press with Mamma Mia and Peppermint Magazine and, some other publications. So that helped to really kickstart things too. So I think I'm a big advocate for crowdfunding, as I said, and especially for social enterprise, if you need to buy a lot of stock or buy a lot of product or something like that from the outset, it's a really good way to get your family and friends and network involved as well, as opposed to just sort of launching with your own website.
Definitely. Actually, Lauren, I share your passion for education. And also, while I'm not trying to build a social enterprise, I'm also teaching at university. So So I was quite interested to see that you're an alumni of the School of Social Entrepreneur and the Impact Academy. And obviously this is looking at some kind of formal education for social impact. So I'm quite curious to know, what were the biggest takeaway from going through formal education in that space?
So valuable. I think too, because the first school I went through was the School of Social Entrepreneurs. And that was when I first discovered social enterprise as a concept, was through them, was discovering their website. And I thought, I really want to do this. They had an incubator program. So they take like 15 students a year with an idea for a social enterprise. And then you go through this sort of 9-month program of, growing and learning and shaping and doing all of the things to start a really successful social enterprise. So for me, there was some great takeaways. Probably the biggest one was just connecting in the space. The social enterprise space is really relatively quite small in Australia, which is kind of exciting for newcomers because there's a lot of opportunity, so much opportunity, and it's growing and people are excited about it. Like a lot of corporates want to engage in social enterprise now. So it's such a great time if you're well connected within the space, sort of knowing other social entrepreneurs that you can help each other. And so I think that was really valuable, just making those connections, but also understanding the social enterprise model, I guess. And as I mentioned before about making sure we were investing in really good, meaningful social impact, that was important to me. And the other aspect, I guess, of that is all of our stationery is produced with eco-friendly production methods. And I wanted to make sure that we weren't just funding education and then, having a detrimental impact to deforestation, as a side effect of that. So I think that going through the School of Social Enterprise and then going through Impact Academy, I was able to learn all the really intricate details of making sure the investment was really good when it came to social impact. And the people I met, even just the business side, it was really refreshing to go back over all of those different things. So, I definitely recommend it to anyone that's, interested in that. You can take so much away from it.
We ask all our guests, being such, influential people in the social change space, if they could leave everyone listening with just a few words that, and this is definitely pun intended, if they could leave a few words that they will actually take to heart today, what words would you leave them with?
I would say to just start whatever you're thinking or dreaming about or wishing about, to, just begin, because the sooner you begin, the sooner you will actually get there. And I can attest to it absolutely, that it might seem big and scary and, so far away. But I remember dreaming about, where we are now with Words with Heart, thinking about speaking about gender equality and doing things like this, like doing podcasts and being able to share my message. And it's kind of crazy to think that we're here now just because I sort of, said, okay, we're going to do it. I'm going to do this. So I would say just begin whatever it is that you're thinking about.
Beautiful.
Such beautiful words, Lauren. And if people actually want to either purchase your beautiful stationery or just connect with you and your work, so can you tell them how to connect with you?
Yes, absolutely. So they can purchase any of our stationery online. It's probably the easiest place to find it. So that's our website is wordswithheart.com, and you'll find all of our social media channels there, and you can communicate there or via email, which you'll find there. So head to the website, easiest spot.
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren, for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been so nice.
Well, I'm feeling very, very inspired after our chat with Lauren because I've been a fan of her for a really long time. I've actually been following her on Facebook and Instagram for, I think like a year or so now. And the stuff that she posts is really beautiful content that sort of make the idea of gender equality and being a feminist not so scary and yucky, because sometimes in modern media, the word like feminism can have really like scary and gross undertones. But the stuff that she posts is so genuine and so beautiful. It really gets to what the heart of gender equality is all about.
And I think it's her own personality as well that shines through her work.
Yeah.
When you see her work and then you talk to her, you do see that relationship, I think. And I'm just thinking, when we're talking about making an impact and making a social impact, just right now, we're smiling and, we're kind of just bubbling around. And I think this is a big testimony of her as well. And how, sometimes we can feel quite drained after an interview because, we will be working the whole day and then we'll be recording after a work day. And it takes a fair bit of brain power and effort from us to kind of, stay focused and all of that. But we're feeling quite light and happy.
Yeah.
And I think, this is just a bit of an example of how much she can have an impact as well.
I think also because sometimes when you're interviewing people on social change, you can get bogged down in sometimes the sad realities of why social change has to exist. The reason why people who work for social change exist is because there is inequalities or hardship or injustices that exist in the world. And sometimes when you're putting all your heart and soul into the research of that person and why they came about what they're doing, it's sometimes got a really sad or unfair backstory, and that can really bog you down as the interviewer. Whereas when you're talking to Lauren, her story, while it does have that sadness around her trip overseas and seeing gender equality and girls' education not working to its fullest potential, it's actually still filled with really empowering and beautiful messages. And the notebooks are just a physical manifestation of that.
And I think also how she keeps that motivation is that even if she doesn't work in the cause every single day, she actually is quite connected to the cause.
Yeah.
And spend time and with the people, working in it and all of that. So I think that helps to keep her motivation and her positive side as well.
Yeah. So I guess interviews with people like Lauren are our why. Like Lauren talked about, staying motivated was reminding herself of her why. And interviews like we did today with Lauren are our why. They're what make us go, oh my God, yay, we can actually make social change, and we are being a part of this changemaker's journey, and it's a really positive and beautiful thing. Well, if you're still listening at this point, thank you. And if you enjoyed the episode, please head to iTunes and rate us. Or you can head over to our Facebook page, Human Factor Podcast, and hit like and join the conversation. Tell us about what you thought of our episode today. And if you have thoughts or insights to add to anything that Lauren or Mel and I said, leave us a comment.
Or tweet us at _Human Factor, or visit the website at humanfactor.com.au. And you can leave us a voicemail or a message. This show is just one part of a community that wants to affect and grow social change. So if you have a topic or a person that you'd like us to feature on the show, please let us know. And if you'd like me to coach you or your team on how to build your tribe through content marketing, email me at melanie@humanfactor.com.au.
And on that note, you're all awesome. We'll see you next time.